Just Breathe Live is a YouTube live stream where youth ministry has a say. Hosts Shannon Harper and Eric Bliss interview youth and adult badasses who hold a vision of liberal, religious youth ministry that is both life-saving and spirit-lifting. Come join us via the chat for real-time conversations where your ideas matter and your questions get answered. Explore faith, spirituality, and life purpose as never before. And above all, bring your authentic self and just breathe.
I was muted. I was saying hello. Good evening.
Hey everyone, welcome to Just Breathe Live.
You are joining us for our it's sort of our first episode. It's like our first official episode. We're calling this the first episode. We had a test episode a couple weeks ago. It's pretty good. You should watch the video of it on our YouTube channel. If you're on our YouTube channel, you should subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can know whenever we go live and all of the fun things that we're doing. I am Shannon Harper.
And I'm Eric Bliss.
And we are happy to be coming to you. I'm coming from Dayton, Ohio.
Salt Lake City, Utah, the unceded territory of the Ute, Goshute, Paiute, and Shoshone nations.
Thank you for that. And yeah, we're excited to be joining you from two parts of the country, and hopefully all the people in between are here with us. As you join us, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know who you are and where you're coming from.
And tonight we're going to be talking about the other side of the bridge. What happens after youth group, or what some might still call Why Are You, Young Religious Unitarian Universalists. And we've got two incredible guests for this first episode, but we're not going to introduce them yet.
So we're going to talk about that mysterious, nebulous thing that happens after you bridge out of youth community, youth ministry. And to start us off, we have a check-in question for us all. The check-in question we have tonight is, how do you define your religious or spiritual home? So however you articulate it, how do you define it? Eric, do you want to?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is Unitarian Universalism. I grew up in this faith, and it has been so formative and generative for me, from going to youth cons to going to camps, and now being blessed to work with the youth and adult leaders we have across the country, and folks like yourself, Shannon, and our guests, again, no hints yet, but Unitarian Universalism is it, a place where you are invited to be free in what you believe within certain parameters, and you are free to pass that on, that I'm the primary religious educator for my children instead of a book or a person with a pointy hat in Rome. What about you, Shannon?
This question, I was like, well, my spiritual home is my congregation, but the year has been weird. My congregation has been meeting all online, and just recently we've started meeting in person. And so I still feel a real connection to a little shout out, Miami Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Dayton, Ohio, and to all the people there. But I feel like in this last year and a half now, really like spiritual home being home, and how am I making my home my spiritual place too, feels really important. I mean, like, I'm working from home, I'm coming to you live from home, like we're at home all the time. I just moved too, so I had the opportunity to really be intentional about my home and my spiritual place, and just making sure that I am grounded in the values and the things that I not only believe in, but also that I want to learn more about, or that I want to, experience. And so it's not, not that set. I think that's what, like, way back when, because I did not grow up a Unitarian Universalist, unfortunately. It's like, I feel like it's one of those things, like, I have a huge regret that I didn't grow up as a Unitarian Universalist. And maybe that's why I like to work with youth. And I wanted my children to be so much a part of youth community, because I think it's pretty special to have the opportunity to be part of this faith when you're younger. But, because I didn't have that, I had to kind of create it. And so, yeah, I guess I'm just really thinking about how my home literally is my spiritual place, and how I'm intentionally keeping it that way. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, y'all are all invited to also share in that YouTube chat. How do you define your religious and or spiritual home, however you articulate it? So please throw your answers in the chat, and we'd love to hear about your thoughts in that matter. And while you're doing that, I'm going to lead you in a breathing exercise. We call this Just Breathe Live, and it's both literal and metaphorical. So I invite you to find a comfortable position wherever you might be, wherever you find yourself, and settle into your space. Take a moment to relax, to unwind, and just breathe with us. We'll do 3 calm, centering breaths all together. And with each breath, on the inhale, you're invited to think or say out loud, just. And on the exhale, think or say, breathe. Is everyone ready? Let's do it. Just breathe. Just breathe. One more. Just breathe. That's good. Thanks, everyone. I'm feeling charged and ready to go. I hope you are too.
I am ready to introduce our special guests. First, we have, drum roll, Molly Gottfried. There she is. Hey. Molly is a first-year student at Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts. She's a lifelong UU with a passion for social justice and collaborative leadership. Molly is currently floating in between UU communities after being heavily involved in regional and national UU events as a high schooler. But she is looking forward to exploring the emerging and young adult world after getting more settled into her new life on the East Coast. Welcome, Molly.
And our second guest, this feels like a game show, like Who's Behind Curtain number 2.
Ooh.
Our second guest is Chloe Emily. Chloe Emily is a communications graduate from Fresno, California. Her passions are graphic design and behind-the-scenes organizing. Chloe grew up in Unitarian Universalism and currently works as communications and media coordinator at her home congregation, as well as serving the national UU community as a board member of the organization JUUst for Social Justice. So glad you are with us tonight, Chloe.
We would love to invite you to answer the check-in question. So where are you finding your spiritual or religious home right now? Molly?
Hi, everyone. I'm still trying to figure that out myself right now. I just moved across the country. I'm from Oregon, living in Massachusetts right now for college. And so I'm trying to rediscover what Unitarian Universalism means to me and where I can find that home while balancing all of the new aspects of my life right now. So I'm still figuring it out.
Nice. Physically, I am in Anaheim, California, working on some music. Spiritually, my home has always been Fresno, California, where my home congregation is, and with my family and friends around there, as well as kind of my home base when it comes to my work in graphic design and just my work with my personal spirituality. So I'd say Fresno, California is where I am right now.
Yeah, that was my next question, was where is your body physically? And so Kelly, you're in Fresno, and are you at school, at home? What are you?
Physically, I'm actually in Anaheim right now. I am doing a few music workshops through Disney. So that is where I am right now.
So you're
go
actually
ahead.
at Disney?
Yes,
Like,
I'm sitting in the Grand California Hotel on my lunch break right now. So that is where I am.
why even bother blurring your background? It's got to be like the best background, like, except I guess maybe random people walking by, maybe. Weird.
That is, yeah, the people, I don't think I had their consent to put them on video, so I'd rather not take that chance. Yes, it is very beautiful here, though.
And Molly, where are you?
Jealous.
Yeah, I know. I just want to be in California, period, but you know.
I'm currently in Northampton, Massachusetts, sitting in my dorm room at Smith College. I've been here for about a month, and I'm originally from Corvallis, Oregon, where I lived my whole life. So I'm adjusting to a new place after living in the same house for 18 years. So it's a lot, but I'm really excited to be here, and I'm having lots of fun and learning.
So if we were to jump right into our interview, what we really want to talk with you about, well, all the things we've already been talking about, but talking with you about is how, like, all right. How did you become a Unitarian Universalist? Like, were you raised UU? Did you find it? What's your story?
I can start us off. I'm a lifelong UU. I started going to my local UU church in Oregon when I was a baby. My parents took me. But I think growing up before high school, it was more of like one of those things that like I had to do. And so I don't think that I would define myself as a Unitarian Universalist before high school. I just kind of went to a UU church. But I discovered Unitarian Universalism and started identifying with the faith probably the end of my freshman year of high school after I went to my first youth conference. And yeah, I think that's when I first started to really get connected and learn about like what it actually was.
And then I discovered, so to speak, my UU congregation in 7th grade. My mother dragged me kicking and screaming to a service, and I met some of the youth and young adults there, and just I wanted to go there more often than my mother did after that, which was amazing. And I was fully introduced to national conferences through my minister at the time, my interim minister, Reverend Sophia, and she introduced me to national workshops and training programs. So I'd say I was fully introduced to it at about age 14.
Thanks, y'all. So going back to that youth experience, what was it like growing up as a youth in Unitarian Universalism? What were the things that really resonated for you or made or defined that experience for you?
My experience, I think, was all over the place. It was my whole life in high school, and I spent every free moment working on UU related things. I was involved in district staff, and then my junior year I started getting involved nationally through JUUst staff. But yeah, it was the best thing ever. I'm so grateful that I had that community. And it also was exhausting and painful and heartbreaking and all of the things, very multifaceted. And yeah, I think along the way, I kind of like drifted away from like the spiritual side of Unitarian Universalism. And I think that that happens to a lot of youth leaders, and we kind of get lost along the way, and we're so involved in things that it doesn't feel like we're disconnected, but we're not getting spiritually fed in the way that we need to be, because we are here for a spiritual community. That's what I was there for, and so I'm trying to find my way back to that, and trying to find my way back to being a congregant and a member before being in like high leadership all the time. And yeah, but my youth experience, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I think Molly is definitely right in saying that it was painful and chaotic and all over the place. Mine was sort of very familial type, because a lot of us grew really close and became best friends with each other and was spending so much time with each other. And then I think being introduced to national leadership was kind of a step up that I wasn't ready to take at the time. But once I got into it, I kind of just kept going. That momentum kept on building with it. So spirituality for me as well kind of took a back burner. And it wasn't until I was already 20, 21 years old that I really got to delve into my spiritual self and really take the time to self-care spiritually, and really focus on that aspect of Unitarian Universalism versus the leadership aspect. So yeah.
Wow, Bliss, I think we need to do like a whole episode on youth leadership and the ins and outs, and I feel like there's a lot of lessons to be learned just in these guests. And I'm also reading our chat. And first of all, just want to say hello, everyone, and I love you all, because I see so many names. It's so exciting. Like, okay, can I just be a 46-year-old person who doesn't do live stuff like often or anything or ever? Okay, this is the second time. And it's just really exciting to like see people I know in the chat. I'm like, oh, I remember that. And I remember that. And I have this really funny story to say about that person, but I'm not going to, because I'm not going to embarrass anybody here. But it's just really exciting to see all of you. And I love you all. And I'm like, and just sharing the stories. So like sharing stories about being lifelong UUs. And I can see in the chat, like there's a ton of leaders in the chat that I've had the experience of working with. So yay, let's put it up. We're putting it on the books. We should do a whole nother episode on youth leadership.
Shannon, I'm so with you, and I think this is a lesson for not just how we deal with youth. Certainly, there's a ton of salience there, but I mean, think of all the board presidents who've left Unitarian Universalism after serving their boards. Think about all the people who've come to the UUA and been chewed up and spit out. No offense, UUA, you're my employer, but in previous iterations of this glorious institution. And so I think there's something there, and it's both at the youth level and beyond, and how we elevate leaders, and then how sometimes they can be discarded.
I don't know how to make a heart emoji in the chat, but if I could, I'm making a big heart emoji in the chat. I'm sorry, I'm going to nerd out just for a minute. But yes, and I think there's also something to be said for what you both seem to share this, like leadership is what you brought you in, but you recognize that like you're actually here for being spiritually fulfilled as well. But you actually had to you didn't get to really you delved so far into the leadership that you maybe didn't get fed in that way. And so I'm curious about what does Unitarian Universalism look like for you now as a young adult? Are you finding the ways to meet those needs? What's the landscape of the young adult, the freshly young adult, I guess, perspective?
I can go ahead, switch it up a little bit. Unitarian Universalism is not my job, which is incredibly strange for me still to say, but it's so thrilling to be able to say it. I've had a few different UU related jobs over the past few years, as well as volunteer positions. The ones most prominently I'm with now, I'm the communications coordinator for my home congregation, and I'm a member of the board of trustees for the national organization UUs for social justice. And being in kind of a higher, more, I don't want to say adult level, because I believe, you know, people of all ages can do these positions if they really want to, and that's something they should totally go after. But a higher level for me of adulthood and leadership in Unitarian Universalism is kind of crazy for me to even say, because if you had asked me even a year ago, would I be doing this now? I would have said, I'm probably still going to be working at the restaurant that I was working at 1 year ago. And I'll probably still be trying to find who I am as a person and what my career is going to be. So COVID obviously had a massive impact on that train of my career path, so to speak. And it's taken me to an even higher level of Unitarian Universalism than I was pre-pandemic.
I feel like thank you for that. I feel like in some ways I'm like in the opposite direction. So I just bridged this past June, so I'm still a very fresh emerging adult, and I haven't like really begun to navigate what that is like. But I am I feel like I'm moving back a little bit, because like I was saying before, I was so heavily involved, and I feel like I got so burnt out and overworked, and I didn't have a good balance. And so now I'm trying to, I don't know, take care of myself a little more, and maybe come back to Unitarian Universalism, knowing what I want to get out of it, and actively like seeking that out. And right now I just like don't have the capacity to do that. So and it's really hard to like take charge of your own faith and have to like find what will fulfill you. It takes a lot of emotional energy, and that I just don't have right now, which I think I've come to terms with. And I understand that like me not being an immediate part of like a UU community right now doesn't mean that I'm not a UU. And I think that's really important to remember, because I think a lot of young people after we bridge, we move back from Unitarian Universalism because there's just so much that we have to navigate, and so much that we have to hold, whether you're going to school or you're like going to work or taking a gap year somewhere. There's so much, and just being a young person in this world is so hard already. And so then adding all these things on top of it just isn't realistic a lot of the time. So yeah, I don't remember what the question was, but
No,
I am now.
That's it exactly. And I also want to say, like, I think what I'm hearing you say is that like life is just really busy and hard at this age, and I've got a lot going on, and it's not that I don't want to connect. And I think that's like, I don't know how many like older people or people who are like DREs or ministers or people in congregations who are watching this, but I think that's also important for us to hear as adults, because in some ways we feel like, oh, we're just not doing it right. We're just not offering enough to young adults and everything. And that's true. We can definitely improve on that. But also you live lives that are like, wow, like you've got a lot going on. And so I think it was just really nice to hear that too.
Yeah, and I got to lift you up, Molly. You know, your work in the Pacific Western region with the YES team, Youth Empowerment Services team, was seminal, and you left a legacy with the idea of horizontal leadership, which I think was born out of frustration and born out of some of that spiritual lethargy that you were going through. And so working together, we put our heads together, and you came up with this idea of horizontal leadership, which is now the model that is being embraced by our youth and adult leadership body. in the region. And so what a gift. And at the same time, we don't want to do that at the expense of our leaders. And so there's some introspection that Unitarian still needs to get to. I also want to lift up, I got to give a shout out to my friend and colleague, Reverend Stevie Carmody, who's getting married. I don't know, is he married already? I can't remember, but it's happening. It's soon. We're working on this thing called Free Radical Ministry. And so, Amanda, I don't know if we have wind beneath our wings. We have this admin team that's behind us. If you can secure that link for Free Radical Ministry, that's something that is specifically for folks, Molly and Chloe and y'all's position, who have busy lives. This is a space where you can connect and practice your faith. So this is a new program. We're just kicking it off. And some folks are already signing up. So, Amanda, if you get a chance, please throw that in chat or that link in the chat when you get a chance. Oh, and next question. That's on me. So what are some things, we're kind of connecting this youth experience with your emerging adult experience. And right now, Unitarian Universalism is struggling with that connection, right? We're still trying to figure out what is emerging adulthood and what is our ministry to emerging adults. But what are things you learned or experienced in your youth community that have been particularly helpful to you as you've entered this next stage of emerging adulthood?
So many good things. I think I'm just now like realizing how much I got out of my time as a youth leader in ways that I like took for granted and didn't even like realize was happening. There's just so much real world practice that we get to experience in such a like kind and forgiving environment that I wish all of my peers got to experience, because I think it helped me grow and it helped me learn how to advocate for myself and critique things in productive ways. I learned how to facilitate things and manage my time and figure out like scheduling, all of that stuff that I'll need for the rest of my life. And I also I learned how to work with people and be in community with people, even when we don't always have like the same opinions on everything, and knowing how to be okay with that and still like come at it from like with love and respect for everyone. And I think I grew in so many ways through that, and it shaped pretty much every part of who I am right now.
Yeah, I definitely also like shout out to you, Molly, because I was nowhere near your level when like 5 years ago when I was your age. So the fact that you've done what you have is absolutely amazing, and just snaps to you for that. That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like I definitely got a lot from my mentors that I had throughout high school and even middle school, and just building those relationships and keeping that momentum going for me was really important. I feel like for me, the bridge between youth and emerging young adulthood was a little more difficult, because I didn't have as many connections as I probably would have needed at that point. But coming back and kind of really throwing myself into Unitarian Universalism as a leader and as a person of color and an emerging young adult has really kind of given me those connections and those bonds with people that I couldn't have gotten if I hadn't taken the path that I did.
Mm. Wow. So there's like so much wisdom in this room, I feel like. So much wisdom and experience. It's wonderful. So the next question is we're asking you to look into your crystal ball, because you should know all, right? I mean, I feel like this is the point in time where you should know all, or at least, I don't know. Anyways, but look into your crystal ball and tell us, what do you think? Like, what could be on the horizon for emerging adult ministry and Unitarian Universalism? Like what do you imagine like could happen or could be in the future?
It's a great question, and I've been trying to brainstorm and think of like what I want to see. And I think it's hard because like I don't know what I need right now, and there's so much that is changing in our world, and like every day I like need something different, and so it's hard to think of like what things we could do to make the emerging adult community in our faith strong and connected and whole, because our world isn't built for that right now. So I think a lot of it comes from just like taking down systems and relearning how to be in the world, and just, I don't know, exploring different things. And it's just an ever-changing thing. I think for a lot of like youth stuff, a lot of it is more, it feels more set in stone. But I think because we're so like on our own in a lot of different ways, as we get older, it's hard to create those like permanent systems and structures that we had when we were younger. So just like being able to change things and go with the flow, I feel like is a good way to put it. I don't know.
Yeah, what Molly said about going with the flow is definitely kind of the overarching theme of my growing through emerging young adulthood. And I feel connection between being a youth with a set structure and a set, schedule, to going to emerging young adulthood, where you make your own schedule and your own path and your own decisions, even if they're influenced by another person, if it's your parents or guardians or whoever, or your mentors or whoever. Kind of building that connection between youth and emerging young adulthood, which has always been stilted in some form for a lot of people, and making a foundation that can allow these programs and this ministry work to grow into something amazing, and really listening to the emerging young adults who are talking about that ministry and those programs.
Amen, y'all. It's just so apparent that emerging adult ministry is not static. It can't be static. It has to constantly be evolving and be responsive. And I think that's why so many faiths, not just Unitarian Universalism, but really struggle to like find the sweet spot in terms of ministering to this group, because the needs change, as you said, Molly, from day to day. There are different needs every day. Thanks for that. So we've got some youth on the line. I think we've got some youth out there. We've also got a shout out to Reverend Carlton Smith, our regional lead from the Pacific Western region. Thank you, Carlton, for joining us tonight, and to everyone else who's with us. But we've got some teenagers out there, and you think back to your own time as a youth. Are there messages that you would share? What messages of wisdom that you would impart to a high school sophomore or junior, and what would that be? What have you learned to this point that you would point to them and say, here's a guiding star for you as you move through your world as a spiritual being?
Change is so incredibly scary to face, no matter how much you think you prepared for it, no matter who you've talked to, how much advice you've been given, whether your parents or guardians approve of it or not. Just doing something new, it's such an exhilarating experience. No matter how terrifying it is, just go for it. Like, you can think about the consequences and try to predict what those consequences might be, but in the moment when you're doing it, it's going to feel so amazing and so fulfilling. So just be ready to be put in scary situations and try new things with the knowledge that they might become something incredibly fulfilling and incredibly centering to yourself.
I think if I were talking to myself in high school, I just would tell myself to relax a little bit, maybe calm down, take a breath. I think when you're in that space, it just feels like it is your whole world. It was my whole world. And it felt like everything mattered so much. And it does matter, but I I think I was a little too high strung about it, and it was not good for anyone. And just to remember why you're there. Remember what brought you to Unitarian Universalism, why you were so passionate and excited about joining all of these things or doing whatever you're doing. And just like hold on to that and remind yourself of that every so often, because it's easy to get caught up in so much. And now that I'm like kind of out of the youth space, looking back, I'm like, I wish I would have done XYZ differently, but you know, whatever. But I think I would have enjoyed my time so much more if I had just, I don't know, taken a breath every so often. And I know that that's so hard to do when you're in the moment. So
I feel like that's like something I need to do now. So take a breath and enjoy. Yeah, I mean, well, actually, that's why we called our live stream "Just Breathe Live," because it's one of those things that, like, if you don't remind yourself, if you don't like intentionally do it, and remind yourself, or it becomes a practice, it's really hard to and then when you do it, you're like, oh yeah, why didn't I just take a break? But thank you, Molly and Chloe. So do you have any like life hacks for those people who are, because there's definitely some people, well, there's some people who are either in the same place as Molly is in first year outside of YRUU, but also I think there's probably maybe some people who are younger. So what's your life hacks for like surviving outside of youth community?
I feel like I could have used those when I was a youth, just going into college. Oh goodness. I mean, there are so many little ones that I could give you, but just don't be afraid to make connections. Connections go a long way. I know, like, I'm an introvert. Introducing myself to people I'm so scared, but once you do it, and once you find either something that you have in common or some change that you'd both like to see, like some common factor between the two of you, you can develop such meaningful and just awesome connections with people. Like Bliss, I didn't know Bliss basically a year ago, probably a little more less than that. So, but us talking about emerging adult ministry and what we want to see for future emerging young adults and current emerging young adults has been such a passionate point of conversation between us. And now I feel like I see Bliss in a different meeting or two every single week. So, I mean, those connections, just nurture them and don't be afraid to grow with them.
yeah, absolutely. On that connection piece, you'll find UUs in the most random places. The person who lives like diagonal from me right now is a UU. There's someone like a couple floors up who's a UU. There are like 5 other people that I've like run into that are like, oh my God, I'm a UU too. And it's so affirming to run into these people and to know that like you have a community wherever you go. I think that's really special, and you'll always have something to connect with. And also, if you want something, go for it. I know it sounds cheesy, but like, you can do anything. You really can. Um, and yeah, just go for it. I don't know if I have any like life hacks or anything, because if I did, I think my life would be a lot more put together. So if anyone does have a life hack, please let me know. I need it.
I mean,
In the chat, please.
I feel like dorm decoration seems to be a good, you've got that going on. Like you've got a nice space. Is that like a coffee maker back there? Oh, plant living things that you're keeping alive, you're caring for. That's fantastic. Yeah.
I can't keep a plant alive to save my life. Water, sunlight. What am I missing here? What am I missing? Hey, so a big shout out again to Reverend Carlton. Carlton said via the chat that he hopes youth prioritize their self-care and nurture in their youth involvement. And in his mind, it should be fun instead of just another thing to do. And our amazing friend, Sam Wilson, interim DRE and youth coordinator extraordinaire, says, take a gap year. More people are doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took a gap year from college, and then my life went deep dive into Unitarian Universalism, which, you know, you would think you need a college degree to do the things you want. And that's a message, that's like a lesson I had to learn the hard way. If you want to go that route to education, please do. I'm not saying college is bad. Please, I'm not saying that whatsoever. But I'm not an education-minded person. That's just not who I am. That's not my strongest suit. So the fact that I'm able to kind of still be in Unitarian Universalism and have these opportunities without staying in college and finishing out my degree like I had thought I had to, I feel like that's a point that needs to be made more often.
Yes. Thank you so much. That is an excellent point. And I was actually kind of thinking that I was like, you know, there's a lot of youth who are not doing college right away, either because they're taking a gap year or it's just not, you know, I've known very personally some people, they could be on this call or not, but they were like, hey, not in our circle here, but like who could be listening. But like, you know, I don't want to spend the money and all the, you know, like all of like, I mean, it's stressful and it's hard when I don't know exactly what I want to do right now. I want to figure it out for myself, you know, and taking that time is so important. And I mean, I hope if anything we've learned, maybe some lessons from this year and a half of life interrupted. I hope that we've learned that, you know, we can take time, that it doesn't have to be go all the time, and that we can take time to discern. But yeah, I have mad kudos for those who are like doing the traditional college route, those who are doing the college route, like community college from like at home and like, you know, working part-time and going to school, and the people who are just straight out working all like it's hard all around. Yeah.
And you know, the free radical ministry that I lifted up earlier, I mean, that's why we call it free radical, you know, because folks, some are staying home, some are not, some are working, some are not, some are doing it all at the same time. And so always also want to lift up something else Sam said in the chat, said always remember what the main values are that you hold dearly, and take the time every so often to reassess what those might be. They'll likely change as your experiences shift your view of the world. Totally true for me. When I bridged, I didn't even identify as Unitarian Universalist. I identified more as a Buddhist than a Unitarian Universalist, and it's only by accident that I came back to this faith. That's another story for another show.
Can we have that show? It's a good story. It's actually a good story. I know the story.
I don't like the spotlight on me. I don't like it. No. Please.
Okay. So we're at the point where we normally like ask people who have joined us for questions. Like, are there any questions, comments, messages you would like to send to our guests? And I've already saw some mad love for y'all in the chat. Any questions?
And is there something, while these questions are coming in, Chloe and Molly, are there questions we haven't asked you that you want to share about your experience now?
What do you want to tell us?
Yeah. What did we leave unsaid? What's still on the table?
What's the to be continued? Because we have to have a whole nother episode to talk about it.
You've already given us one.
Yeah.
The interviewers become the interviewees. No, I feel like there's so much that can be asked about emerging young adult ministry, but we haven't kind of delved deep enough into it, just as a faith as a whole, to kind of know what those questions are and be able to confidently ask them, or to be able to confidently have answers to them. So I don't know. Molly, I'll ask you this. Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years?
I have no idea. I truly don't know. I feel like it changes. Like I was saying before, it changes every day. I'm like, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. And I am trying to be okay with that. It is hard. There's so many options, and there's so many things that I don't know yet. And yeah, there's just so many things in the world. I could be doing whatever.
That's such a good question, Chloe, and I'm glad you asked it. I'm reminded of 2009 GA. I'm a high school teacher, and I run into one of the first students I ever taught, who's now the senior minister at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta, Reverend Taryn Strauss. And I run into her. She is a DRE at the time. She's like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm a teacher. I'm kind of over it." "You should be a DRE." And so I took a chance, and I ended up in Denver as a DRE. And the next thing I know, I'm working for the UUA. And so, Chloe, back to your point about connection. I mean, it's so important to take those risks, like when those opportunities present themselves. That's beautiful.
We have a question.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Ellie. Hey, Ellie. Ellie asks, do you have any advice for dealing with anxieties about failure and uncertainty? Good. And then there's also another question. Do you have a personal spiritual practice? So it's 2 questions. The anxiety one, though. Ooh.
Yeah, that's a toughie. I feel like it depends on who you are and who you know yourself to be. Personally, I am an overthinker. So what I was saying about, thinking about the consequences and the potential bad consequences, I do tend to do that a lot. And I've found that having kind of a soundboard, whether it's in a UU community or not, a person who you can talk to, whether it's a professional or not, just someone you really depend on and know, talk to them. I mean, I know it's tough having serious conversations when you could easily make a joke about it and move on, but having a serious conversation about potential career changes, potential, new activities that you're doing, potential anything, just having someone to hear you out and point out, hey, you're overthinking this. I really think you'd be super amazing at this and you should totally go for it. Or having someone say, well, have you thought about it in this way? Any of those type of things. That really helps me a lot. And I definitely have quite a few of those people now, I'm happy to say, that I've had those conversations with, and hopefully we'll continue having those conversations with.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I when I like am feeling anxious about like the outcome of something, a lot of the time I will think of like, what is the worst case scenario and how will I get through that that experience? How will I like come out on the other side? And then it's usually not the worst case scenario, and then I'm like, okay, I'm fine. Or I have this little notebook, and I'll just like write through like all of my thoughts, and then usually in the process of I do a lot of writing. Chloe said that they were doing a lot of like talking. So all of these things, just like working through like what's going on in your brain and either vocalizing it or putting it out on paper can be a good way to kind of rationalize it, because a lot goes on up here that isn't very rational a lot of the time. And so either having someone to say like, this is not going to happen, or like, you're going to be okay, or just seeing it written out, I think at least is really helpful for me. But of course there's always going to be anxiety and all of that, and I also don't know how to how to work with it.
Yeah, the anxiety, especially the failure. I mean, I kind of have my life figured out. I have, like I have a house and a job and kids and stuff. So like I'm there, but the failure this year feels like real, right? Like I feel like I keep trying things or doing things. This is an experiment. Like Eric and I literally called this an experiment because we weren't sure if it was. It's so hard to commit to anything right now, right? Because like the failure, and it's not even our fault failure. It's like, oh, the world is kind of crappy right now, and we can't meet together in person, or we can't like do the things that we normally do, and so we're having to work through it. Yeah, I love that. Like being able to having somebody to talk to, writing it out. Those are all really good suggestions. Thank you.
Well, and that follow-up question is brilliant because it really ties into how we deal with those uncertainties and those anxieties, which is spiritual practice. I mean, my personal practice at the end of each day is a cleansing practice, and it helps me transition from work to family life. Do y'all have, Chloe and Molly, do y'all have a personal spiritual practice that is helping you maybe when you're feeling anxious or about failure or uncertainty?
So on my campus, like 5 minutes away from where I live, there's a pond called Paradise Pond, and there's a trail that goes through the woods, and there is a clearing of that, like hundreds of prayer flags are set up and roped between the trees. And I've started just like going out on walks and just being in nature. I love trees, so I feel really connected to my home, and just who I am when I'm out there. So I don't know, finding something that you really like deeply connect to, I think is just like a good starting point if you're trying to figure out like what works for you. But yeah, I think just going outside and being like cleansed of everything, and not being on my phone is nice.
Yes.
Definitely turn off the laptop, turn off the cell phone, if that's your thing. I tend to go to music, whether it's listening to music or composing some music or just playing on the piano a little bit. That's my personal favorite, is playing on the piano I have in my house and just going through a list of songs that I love and I always enjoy playing, and that I know and can play with my eyes closed at this point because I don't really have to think about it. And while I'm playing, I'll just stay in that space and in that moment. And that kind of helps me clear out any negativity or uncertainty that's in my brain from, just in general.
Yeah. music is definitely, and singing. I love singing along. I like singing along in the car. It's very therapeutic. There's one more question, and I know we're running. I hope we have time for it because I think it's a really good question. Sam asks, can you think of any specific activities or experiences you had in youth group or other UU spaces that were particularly impactful to you, felt life-changing, saving in some way? I feel like that's a really good way to end our conversation.
For me, I always felt the most connected to this faith when I was just like in conversation with people. So at like, whether that's like in small groups or with my youth group or whoever, talking about like things that like actually mattered in the world and that mattered like to our lives felt really, really powerful. And I didn't get that in any other space. And also the first time that I was in a group with only other people of color was just like the most magical moment. And I don't get that enough. It's hard to find people, and that's something that I've really been struggling with here at college. So yeah, just like being around people who share experiences, or at least like understand like where you're coming from with your experiences is just, there's nothing like it. And I don't know what I would do without those spaces and those people that I still talk to today. And they help me get through things, and I don't feel so alone.
I feel like I guess probably the most kind of realization that I could be okay where I'm at and move forward in a healthy way was realizing that I could talk to people and that people would listen. That was the biggest thing. And I spent 19 years of my life not realizing that I could do that. Coming back and not being scared of talking to people, but also knowing that if I was scared, it wouldn't be as bad as I think it would be. Kind of growing into that realization, it made me more confident about who I was as a person and my self-worth, and then more capable of going back to the point I made before of going up to someone and seriously talking to them about a situation. So yeah, I think the realization that, I could actually be heard and be loved in that form was really powerful.
Thanks, y'all. I have to lift up something Sam Wilson said in the chat. How do I get to be as wise and grounded as both of you when I grow up? Hashtag. But actually, facts. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We are coming close to the end of our hour. It has zoomed by, and we're just truly, I'm humbled and clearly not speechless, but we are blessed to have you. And Shannon, is there anything else you want to say before I talk about our next Just Breathe Live?
No, go for it.
So our next Just Breathe Live will be Sunday, October 10th. Same time, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, with special guests. You'll find out. Stay tuned. Come be a part of the conversation and just breathe with us, but make sure you mark those calendars. Sunday, October 10th, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and be sure to like and subscribe this YouTube channel and spread the word about Just Breathe Live.
Yes, and you can email us at justbreathelive@uua.org, right? Is that our email address? Yes, because we got to. But if you have suggestions or ideas, or you want to volunteer yourself to be a guest on Just Breathe Live, we would love to hear your ideas. and thoughts about what, what would be interesting to see, or if there's some like rock stars out there. I think we use the word badass in our, yeah, I know. Here's Eric and I being like, whoo. But yeah, anybody who would be really awesome. We would love to hear your thoughts on that. Where are we in our script, Eric? I don't know.
It's time to whoosh.
Oh,
it's time to whoosh.
Okay, this is my, we did it last time and we just decided it was so good. We're just going to keep doing it. And this is, I have to say, again, this is my shout out to Nancy Combs Morgan, our colleague in Mid-America region, who I learned this from when I was like the DRE, and I was on our youth adult committee for the Heartland area. Shout out to the Heartland area Youth Council. And at the end of whenever we had a meeting, and we had a portion of our agenda that we were finished with, we would do this really fantastic breath, and it was the whoosh, and we called it the whoosh. And it has to be like a full body, full throat. I'm going to mute myself because I don't want to scare y'all. But like a full body, and the whoosh has to start up here, and it has to like move its way through, and then you push it. Now you can't see because of my hand. So pushing, and you're pushing it out, just like done. This is just like the best breath ever. You're just pushing it out, right? So we're all going to do it at the same time to celebrate and end our time together. The whoosh. Are you ready? It was kind of anticlimactic without me actually making the noise. Maybe next time.
I think future
noise.
episodes.
I have to. It has to be, loud, and we'll work it out.
So as we depart, we'd love to hear what you are breathing in these days that is keeping you sane, helping you stay grounded, or filling your cup. Please type in the chat whatever it might be that is keeping gas in your tank, a skip in your pace, or fresh air in your breath. Thanks for joining us. And thanks to our guests, Molly and Chloe Emily.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.